basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything.
You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here.
The Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride pod is brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Okay, guys, summertime. Jayson Tatum showing up, playing for the Olympic team. I think it's awesome that he's doing this. Drew Holiday as well. They're playing in Vegas. I'll start with you, Bob. I know you love this sort of international thing. How do you feel heading into Paris?
Oh, I mean, we're prohibitive favorite. I can't see a country that's got enough firepower to anywhere near as good as Spain was in 08 or 12 when they gave us two very tough championship games. France as well. Although France is always a sleeping giant, they never seem to maximize their potential. I don't know if this will be a difference now at all with Wembanyama. I assume he's on that team. I haven't heard he wasn't, but but we're still properly loaded and I'm sure well coached, and I'm not worried. I think we're going to win. The question for me is who gets the other medals, and the team that I'm most concerned about, because I root for them, is Canada. I go back to 92 when I first got involved in international sport at all at the Dream Team situation, and I befriended the PR director from Canada during the Tournament of Americas, and the coach was Jay Triano, who people might know in America, and look, I just like them to be successful. They've got arguably the best backcourt in the tournament. That you can argue that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray are equal or superior to any backcourt in the world, including ours. But they don't have a quality big. And this is where our friend and colleague, Mr. Goodman, comes in. Speaking of quality bigs born in Toronto. Jeff?
Yeah, Zach Edey. Zach Edey, he's the one that you could see as the future, and just had a double-double last night in the Summer League for Memphis, the number 9 pick, who a lot of people, myself included, were like, number 9, I don't know about this, with the way the game has changed or changing. And listen, he's a hell of a player. We've talked about him, quite a bit over the last couple of years. He's a hell of a player. It's just going to take the coach buying in to using him. And, again, the great thing is with Ja Morant, listen, there's few guys that were better screeners in the last 10 years in college basketball than Zach Edey. So at worst case scenario, if you're using him as a guy who, again, can free up Ja Morant, now the question is, can Zach Edey make enough shots from the perimeter to be a threat in that ball screen, offense? I don't know yet. I think he can get better because he's only played 7 years of organized basketball. Grew up as a baseball and hockey player. But yeah, I mean, you look at Canada, getting back to what you were talking about with the Olympic team, not to get off track too much into Zach Edey, Dylan Brooks, Jamal Murray, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett's solid, right?
Barrett.
Lou Dort, they got a lot. Andrew Nembhard, they got a lot of good perimeter guys. They're missing that one guy. I mean, your boy Kelly Olynyk might be starting at the 5 for him. Who knows?
No, I mean, he's all they got that I can see. That they got a guy who I never even know existed, who's a Nigerian-born playing in your EJM. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but I didn't know anything about him. He's a big guy, but I have no idea if he's.
Melvin Ejim played it.
Yeah, I don't know him.
He's not a real big. He's more of like an undersized 4.
Okay, fine. So I still think they got enough firepower. They ought to medal. They've never medaled. They've never gotten so much as a bronze. And I think that the time has come. Okay, now that when we weren't paying attention, there was an interesting game the other day in which Giannis took out Luka.
Yeah.
I.e., Greece KO'd Slovenia. And no, they beat Croatia, right? I'm sorry. But anyway, they're both, Giannis lives, Luka doesn't. And Jokic, that's it. Yeah. So, but Giannis and Greece, their surprise entrant, the people weren't really counting, even with him, they weren't counting on this. Anyway, I look forward to that competition, and I love the whole thing. But now we got to get to the story that came out of last night that you're all over. The young man from Newport, Maine, is on everybody's lips and Vegas.
Right.
I was texting with Tatum afterwards.
Just so people know, Cooper Flagg had an outstanding day against the Olympians. 17-year-old.
17 years old.
17 years old.
Turns 18 in December, and he was part of the select team, the only college player, and he's not even in college yet. I mean, that's the crazy part. We call him a college player. He has not played a college game. He'll be a one and done at Duke this year. 6'9", super versatile. I've seen him play probably, 20 times, 25 times in person. And he is fun to watch because he does everything well. Like, he is not just the guy that we're relying on. Like, if he doesn't get his points, that's not his game. His game is everything. He makes people better. He can score. The one weakness of his game, guys, was his perimeter shot. And yesterday, like, he was tearing up. I mean, he was playing on the select team, which has like Jalen Duren and Brandon Miller and Jaime Jaquez and guys like that. Peyton Pritchard. And he was clearly, when I talked to several people that were there, Matt Painter is a coach for that select team, clearly the best player for the select team yesterday. And they almost beat the Olympic team. I think it was 74-73 was the final.
Well, you talk about history repeating itself, okay? In 1992, the talk of the buzz in La Jolla when we opened up was the select team, which was then 8 collegians of note at the core 8, one of whom was Bobby Hurley. And Bobby Hurley put on a show, and they beat the Olympic team, and to the point where supposedly this Olympic team's going, you guard him. No, I don't want to guard him. You guard him. I swear to God about Bobby Hurley. And then, of course, that was like Chuck Daly's dream scenario because he got their attention and they kicked their ass. I think the score was 30-2 to start the next scrimmage. Really, seriously.
Right.
And,
oh, yeah.
But anyway, Bobby Hurley, so 32 years later, we have Cooper Flagg playing the role of Bobby Hurley, except a bit a foot taller.
So after a year at Duke, he's the #1 pick, right, Jeff?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, it would take something crazy, somebody. Again, his numbers might not be eye-popping at Duke, guys. It's not like you're going to see Cooper Flagg average like Zion did. He's not averaging 22 and 12 or something crazy. He's probably going to average 15, 16 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game, 2 blocks a game. Guys, don't be surprised. This dude is an incredible shot blocker, both in the post and closing out on the perimeter. Like, he's ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool to see the buzz yesterday after this performance. And that's when I texted Tatum. I'm like, was he really as good as what? Because you never know, right? You never know. And he's like, yeah, he was. And then I hit Matt Painter, and then I hit John Shire, who was there watching. Shire will coach him next year at Duke. And they all were like, no. And Painter said, and this doesn't surprise me, guys, but like his mentality, he doesn't get too high or too low. You can tell he's got shit to him. And Painter said, like, he was fearless out there against LeBron, against Tatum, against all these dudes. I mean, again, he's 17 and a half years old. Like, that's the insane part. He reclassified up. Usually when you do that, you're going to struggle in college. Never mind against the best in the world. Like, insane. I encountered one 17-year-old in international competition that people were, dazzled by at the time, myself included. And he turned out to be an okay pro with a career, but he didn't turn out to be a superstar. Never made an all-star team. Ricky Rubio. I saw him in Spain at 17. He was precocious. He was way, but that's closest. So, I'm just going. I got to ask you one more question. Back to Canada for a minute. As far as you know, Jeff, how much pressure, if any, did they care? Was exerted on Edey to play rather than to
do what he's doing, which he said, which is to prepare himself better for, by going to Memphis this summer, play with Memphis this summer. Was there any pressure on him, or did they just take the attitude? Well, the game's changed. We don't need him. I don't know what.
Well, it's funny because last year he played in the overseas competition last year, and he didn't really play. So I wonder if that kind of got him also thinking like, well, I'm going to go there to sit in the bench.
Right.
Yeah. I could be getting better and playing in summer
That's why I'm
league.
wondering, because, did they share the same, the attitude that the American hierarchy shows about the 5 position and it's irrelevance.
He's gotten better though. Even from a year ago, he moves better. He's a little more confident in his ability to step out and shoot the ball. But yeah, like, does he fit with the way Canada wants to play? Probably not. Probably not right now.
Well, anyway, that's I'm keep my eye on them. They ought to be good. They have enough peripheral stuff that they ought to be pretty good. I will really be surprised if they don't medal.
PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Get in on the daily action with your friends. Become part of the PrizePicks community today. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, their stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You could turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Now, here's something that you can think about. What you can think about here with PrizePicks, here's an example of something you could, this is the whole idea behind the concept. Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-pointers made, and Brianna Stewart for more than 23 points. See, it's that simple. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Bob, do you feel now with the Olympics, obviously you're a sports fan, you'll watch tiddlywinks, it doesn't matter, you love games, but the appeal now is the quality of play across the spectrum. While we still can be patriotic and go USA, I mean, obviously it's not the same. I mean, these guys are guys from Team Canada, and you mentioned Greece, they're all NBA guys. But do you think the appeal now is just superstar basketball across the menu?
Oh, that's a good question, and it could be. I mean, the changing tastes and attitudes and exposure of a new generation of fans, and I mean, absolutely, it could be that way. I don't sense any a great fervor about the Olympic basketball these days for people, and I saw I'm probably in a minority, but. It's a great question, and I think we know
how
there's a whole generation.
But how many games are you going to be excited to watch? 50-point blowouts. Like let's be honest here. Most of the games are going to be boring.
Right.
Yeah, we ought to. Yeah, right. I mean, until we get to the medal round. Right. Yeah, you're right. Hopefully there'll be some good games then. No, but I want to take a look at it and just see how it works out and how they're using who. I see one of the issues already that surfaced. One of the issues already that surfaced. Dare you sit LeBron on the bench? We got to start him. No, really. Have you seen that one? Yeah, that's out there.
Controversy.
He's got to start. You can't insult him by bringing him off the bench. All right, maybe that's the case.
Give me your starting lineup. Bob Ryan.
Oh, I got to think. I have to re-examine the roster. I'm sorry. Seriously, we don't.
All right, so let's go with this.
Joe Embiid.
Yes.
He starts, okay?
Right. So Joel Embiid has to start at the 5. Your point guards, basically. By the way, did you see the quote that we haven't talked about this? The quote from Anthony Edwards. Did you see this?
Right.
No.
He said, basically, I'm going in. I'm not changing a thing from a year ago. I'm still the number one. I'm the guy. I'm the number one option.
Right.
Well, he came out of last summer as our best player. And by the way, we didn't win.
Right.
And that reminds me. So Germany is the reigning world champion. And, I guess they're going to bring back the same team, I would think, the Wagners and Daniel Tice. and Dennis Schroeder. You wonder. I think we ought to be able to put a team together to beat that bunch. Although I'm a big Wagner fan of France anyway. But that's interesting. No, yeah, he's a. And by the way, it is not as if he wasn't humbled a bit in these playoffs when it was all said and done. He should have been, right? Don't you think?
No question. I mean, to me, absolutely, there's no doubt.
But it's what makes him great, guys. Listen, and you guys know I was a naysayer to Anthony Edwards coming out of college. I was like, a million games. He's kind of wild. He's not a great shooter, all this. I will say it's part of what makes him great there's
no doubt. I mean, Jeff, he has to have that attitude, but and you probably know him better than we do. Will he be divisive?
I don't think so. I don't think he'll be like that. I'd be surprised if he's like that. But listen, again, I don't know. I don't think I'd start him. I think I'd make him earn it. I mean, I'm looking through the lineup right now.
Curry's got to start.
I'm saying, all right, like I probably would start LeBron. I mean, again, I don't know how you.
Why not?
I don't know how you don't. And again, the question is, okay, so you go Embiid, you go Tatum, you go LeBron. Those are three gimmies for me. Are you starting a traditional point guard? And you don't really have a traditional point guard other than Drew Holiday, who I think you bring off the bench. So do you start Steph and LeBron? LeBron, Tatum, Embiid. I would go with those four. And then the fifth guy, no, I mean.
Well, right now, there's another potential ego situation, which is Durant, who has to view himself as.
He's already banged up a little bit.
I know he's banged up. Yeah. I was going to say, but he's already banged up. So, who knows I don't know how serious or whether that will linger.
What about this, fellas? What about Jayson Tatum, your point forward?
Mr. You got LeBron too. See, you don't need a point guard. You got LeBron. LeBron's going to have the ball.
LeBron can run the ball. And you have Tatum and LeBron who dish the ball. That's what I think. It's what we've seen, the way we've seen Tatum play in the finals, and they won a championship. I mean, you guys know better than me. If you go walking into the Olympic Village and you got the ring, right? You got the ring. You've got some clout. And if Tatum continues to play the way he did, aside from a poor shooting performance, continues to play the way he did, Jeff, during the championship, it's going to be infectious. These guys are going to be the freaking Globetrotters passing the ball.
It's interesting.
And here's my starting five.
Okay.
Curry, LeBron, Edwards, Tatum, and Embiid.
Yeah.
Fine.
You don't need a traditional point guard on any team where LeBron exists. I mean, he's going to have
and Steph.
He's going to have the ball.
You've got three guys that can dish the ball. I mean, we saw Tatum do
Curry
it.
himself is he's the greatest shooter of all time, who, by the way, can pass and get you 10 assists when you aren't looking.
Right. He'll be fine.
So, his attitude, his head's always been in the right place.
And I think, with Edwards playing with this group, if he gets out of line, they just won't give him the ball.
Yeah, and he won't. And you need a guy like him too. You want some youth there. To me, you want some youth, some toughness. A guy who's going to talk some shit, and looks like a man. Like you roll in with that group, like right away, the other teams are going to look at him and go, "Holy shit!"
Oh yeah. I mean, look, there's no doubt. Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. So it's really easy. Just download the Game Time app. Okay, now to me right now, the Red Sox are the ticket you want. So go to a Red Sox game. There's nothing better than going to Fenway Park or going to a baseball game, period. So what you do is you download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I want to get to more on Zach Edey because he is the great, I don't want to say mystery, but I think here's my thing about the league. is everybody says, well, the centers are out, it's not a big man's league anymore. Bob, my feeling is as soon as you get a big man that can help you win, all of a sudden it's a big man's league. So how can this guy not play?
Well, things are off in sports so often cyclical, and this is a thing that I think we'll keep an eye on. And I wondered about this in the last couple of years. Think about this, and tell me, Jeff, I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbole. At a point in his junior year, his first of 2 years, where he would be the player of the year, midway or roughly, even in that junior year, there was a speculation that he wouldn't even get drafted.
Right.
He wasn't.
He wouldn't get drafted. One of the 60 guys chosen would not be Zach Edey, on his way to player of the year at 7'4". That's how far we had come.
Yes. Yes. After last season, he would have come out. He would have been gone if he thought he was going to be drafted, certainly in the first round, even early in the second. I think he would have been gone. So to me, last year, I think he would have been drafted in the back half of the second round.
So
wow.
How does Memphis use him, Jeff? Do they use him? I mean, you mentioned the coach has to buy in.
Here's where it works. Bob. Is now you can move Jaren Jackson Jr. to the 4, which is his natural position. So it really does work. And the guy can get up and down the court. Can he keep up with Ja? No, nobody can. But again, he can make Ja's life easier. He can make Jaren Jackson's life easier. The other part is, if you watch his conditioning last year, it was remarkable. For a guy his size, he never had to come off the court. Like, he could play 40 minutes. Now, again, at the pace, it might be a little different that the NBA is playing at. But he can give you, I think he can play 25 minutes in an NBA game, 30 minutes.
It's not as if they're unfamiliar playing with a big guy, by the way, because until he got hurt, and he was hurt last year, Steven Adams, who was a better player than people realize.
Right.
Not a star, but he ain't a stiff. That's for sure. And they had, but they didn't have him at all. He was, for the most part, last year, but they were used to playing with a guy like that. So it's not like they can't remember, get it back again. I think it's going to be a very interesting team to watch in that regard. And I'm rooting for the kid. He seems like a really bright, personable young man. And I
tell you what he said to me? Hey, I got to tell you this. So after they win in the national semifinal game, and they're advancing to the title game, and they're going to play UConn. I don't think they knew they were going to play UConn yet because they played the first game. I interview him. And I had said, and I've known Zach for a few years now, sat down with him right after he blew up his junior year in Portland. So I've said and written so many good things about him. But one thing I had said in the middle of last season was, like, I just don't know if he's really an NBA player in a sense that he's going to be more than a backup big, which I thought was fair because, again, just the way the game's gone more than anything. Wasn't really a knock on his skills. It was more just, this is the way the NBA game's gone. So he goes, and he had just dominated in the national semifinals. And he looks at me before we do the interview in the back hallway of the arena. And he says, you still think I can't play in the NBA? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's what you're thinking about right now. You just advanced to the national title game. But again, I think, he took that chip on his shoulder of, like, hey, people still don't think I'm going out there and dominating every night, and people still don't think I'm good enough to make the NBA. I think that is going to continue to motivate him, and it has. And again, I love that about him. That he's got a lot of shit to him on the court, but you're not going to find a nicer kid off the court.
And as far as the 3-point aspect of the game, he can shoot a little bit now, but remember, he's young, he can get better, and there's a role model for all those big men forever and ever now, Brook Lopez. And I keep coming back to this: examine the arc of his career, and the fact that when he realized,
there's a lot of them. I mean, Al Horford couldn't shoot a 3 like
Al Horford,
right?
Like
Lopez
there's a bunch of those bigs that when they played, certainly in college. Sabonis is a great one. He never shot a 3 at Gonzaga. And then in the NBA now, he's a pretty darn good 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he is. Well, so
let's move on, guys, to the Bronny,
the
Bronny experience. What's going on there, Jeff? Not so good in his debut.
Yeah, and I really want Bob's take on all this, because I almost feel like I'm too close to it in a way. And I feel like I've talked about it ad nauseum here, but Bronny struggled in his summer league first game. I think he had like 4 points, couple rebounds, couple assists in 23 minutes. Didn't make shots from 3, and he's a lightning rod. He's a lightning rod, and again, like I think the expectations are too high, and I think LeBron set him too high. I do. I feel like LeBron is to blame in a sense.
Oh, sure he is.
A lot of this.
Oh,
and
sure.
Again,
he set his kid up to fail.
Yeah, and again, I feel bad because I think LeBron, again, it's hard to criticize LeBron for too much in his career. And it's hard to criticize LeBron too much for being a great dad, which he is. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand with him coaching his son's teams, with him being courtside, with him helping his son's teammates and giving them advice when they come out the court. So, like, it's really hard for me to criticize LeBron because I think he's a phenomenal dad, or at least from what I've seen. But I think he's put his son in a very, very tenuous position here by saying things like, well, Bronny could play for the Lakers last year, for saying things, for letting him be drafted at 55. Like, if I was LeBron there, I would want the pressure to be taken off my son. And I would understand how it's going to look if a kid who averaged 4.5 points a game for a losing USC team was drafted 55th. I would want to temper the expectations here as much as possible for my son, instead of raising him and now getting it to a point where, people like myself are saying like, well, he shouldn't have been picked 55th. And I know it's a 55th pick. I get it. It's not, but you got a guaranteed contract. And I know he's not the only guy to get it. I know Trace Jackson Davis got it, and Chris Livingston got it because of Rich Paul a year ago in the second round. He's not the only one, but he's more of the exception than the norm. But
the eyes are on him. Bob, your take.
Oh, there's little I can add to that. I've been saying from the beginning that LeBron did his son no favors, and as much as you want to allow for just any parent that and anywhere in the world that sticking up for his kid, he didn't. He should have had better sense. He should know. He knows the landscape. He knows the world. Who's lived under the spotlight since he's cover of Sports Illustrated.
Sure.
16 and more in American athletics lore in the last 20 years than LeBron James. The answer is nobody, and he should know this. So, it's I won't say unforgivable, but it's a shame that he didn't realize and think before he spoke in that regard. But it's done. You can't, the toothpaste out, all the analogies you want, the toothpaste in the tube, the cat's out of the bag. Yeah, it is. It's done. And now they both have to live with the consequences of it. And apparently the young man is strong and realistic. And I loved it when he came out and said he was not his goal to play with Dad. I just want to have a career.
Right.
And I loved it when he said that. I don't know how Dad reacted to that internally. We'll never know. But so that's all. No, everything Jeff said makes perfect sense. And I'm not going to root against the kid at all. I want to root for he's as a human being, he deserves all the all the.
Again, he's a great, by all accounts, he's a really good kid who handles himself.
Yeah. So
the right
but
way.
It's going to be.
And that says something about the kid. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bob. That says something about the kid, because being LeBron James' kid, it ain't easy. I mean, that says something about the young man.
Any mega celebrity in any walk of life, this kid,
right.
I often have thought, would you want to be Frank Sinatra Jr.?
Oh,
No.
Boy, no.
And entering into the same profession, and ultimately, and who knows what kind of what that life was like, and for him, and we can find other examples, but that was the number one in showbiz lately that you can think of as this being Frank Sinatra Jr. Well, this is Frank Sinatra Jr. of basketball, of sport, and so
right.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy, Bob. It's a great analogy. Bob, as we wrap it up, Sixers Knicks, you have some thoughts on their moves in the offseason.
I always like to kid about the Daryl Moore-fication of basketball, and all that, the three, and I hate it. But I got to give the man credit for the way he's handled this offseason. I mean, they're coming after us, us up here in Boston. They're coming after us. Good. I love to rekindle that relationship. And I mean, that rivalry, tremendous. And I think what he's done with George, I know Jeff has his thought about George, he'll speak, but it wasn't just George. They've bolstered the roster, Caleb Martin as well, right? And So they're gonna, they're doing what they had to do and attempt to catch up to the Celtics. And as far as the Knicks are concerned, I thought they were the threat beforehand. That the Knicks, and this is before the Mikal Bridges trade.
A real threat? A real threat?
No, the closest thing. No, not to knock them off, but the challenge. I thought if anybody, I thought the Celtics, it's here and then draw a line still in the East. Okay, no question. But I thought that the team up, as however close you want to put them, was going to be the Knicks, and I still think it will be the Knicks, except they have the situation. It's all hanging on Mitchell Robinson's health, and they don't have the insurance policy that they had last year, which is Isaiah Hartenstein, who turned. Oh, my God, I had no idea how good he was going to be, and he's gone. And I don't know that they replenished or made an attempt to get a quality big, because Robinson can't count on him being available.
Oh, you know who their five may be? You know who their five may end up being? Julius Randle.
Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So, but they're still going to be good. And we know they're going to be well coached. And what we learn all the time is they love playing for Tibbs. So whatever happened with other places, I'm sure Tibbs has learned some lessons himself too. And he's 62 years old or 3 now. He ought to, he's probably pretty through growing, but learning. But no, the Knicks. So I'm impressed, and I love rekindling that rivalry. I mean,
Right.
It was so much fun, and it's been 50 years since the Knicks have been the rival, and 40 since the Sixers have been the rival. But thinking back to how much fun it was to walk into all 3 buildings, ours and theirs too, for those games. And if we're going to get anything resembling that back, that's going to be great.
Great stuff, fellas. We will talk again next week. As a reminder, part 1 of the Dan Shaughnessy Bob Ryan career retrospective is up at clnsmedia.com. Also, you can check it out on Twitter, find it there as well. And part 2 should be dropping soon. And it's a great listen. We've been brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Guys, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys, that was fun.